Hello, welcome back to the channel. It is Dan Nocturne Knives coming at you today with a sharpening video. I'll be sharpening up this Arcane Design Creature that I received in a couple days ago. I just finished cutting up some really thick cardboard with this just to test it out, and the edge is still fine, but for the fun of it and to make this video, I want to go ahead and put a new edge on it. I thought it would be interesting to make a video sharpening this Tanto grind here and give you some of my tips on sharpening Tantos like this. So with that said, let's get into it. And preface, you will note these custom thumb studs that I installed the other day. I really like them. These are from Tie Connector. I'm pretty sure they're the number 8. No, maybe they're the number 3. Whichever of them is the larger size. Really nice. Here I have my standard Veneve resin bonded diamond stone. I have a Nagura right here, and I'm just going to give the surface a light conditioning here. Just clean off some of that slurry from my last sharpening session and expose a nice fresh abrasive. Just like that. And then I'm going to take the stone and rinse it off. All right, let's start off with my usual of cutting off the apex. Here, this is the purpose of doing this is to remove any burnt steel or fatigued steel from the edge. Before sharpening, most factory edges will come at least somewhat overheated, so this will especially benefit your factory edges. Now, to help you guys see what's going on, I'm going to color the edge with Sharpie just to help make it a little easier to see what's going on. Sharpie is on the edge bevel. Now I'm going to go at it. One thing that I like to do sometimes when I'm deciding on an angle and I want to just get a reference point, just approximate an angle while freehanding, I'll take my angle cube, stick it on the flat of the blade right here, and then just kind of hold it on the stone, find that angle I want. In this case, I'm going to go maybe 18 degrees. So I'll just find where it says 18, and you can't see really what it says, but it's at 18 right now. I'm looking at it from the side, and I'll just kind of get that feeling. Just so here's 18, that's the angle I want, and now I'm going to go ahead and start sharpening. And I won't be hitting that angle exactly, but I'll be approximating. It'll be like 17 to 19 degrees, that kind of thing. And by starting out pretty close to that 18-degree angle and starting my bevel there, it will be easy to go back and match it. That's what we're looking at. I have almost completely removed the factory bevel. I think this was at almost exactly 18 degrees to begin with. It was probably like 19, but really that's pretty reasonable. Anything under 20 from a factory edge is a solid angle in my book. A lot of companies are doing like 25, 26 degrees per side, which in my opinion is ridiculous. You don't need to go that high for any knife that you don't plan on abusing. So having this at 18, 19, something like that from factory is really nice. So now I'm going to flip sides and do the same thing. I'll just take my angle cube again and kind of get that reference of 18 degrees. So there, that's about 18 right there. Gonna go ahead and start setting my bevel now, and then it'll be really easy to go back and match. I'll get into my technique here in just a second. Let's see, so that's what we're looking like on this side. You can see I've removed almost all of it down there towards the heel and a little bit up towards the tip. Perfect. You can see all that Sharpie is removed. Excellent, and I can feel a burr along a lot of this edge. Yeah, I think I've reached the apex, so that was super easy. It's looking consistent from heel to tip on that side, and this side looking pretty much the same. That's pretty good. I'll show you my technique real quick. So in my right hand, I take the knife in a pinch grip like this. My left hand, I've got 2 fingers, one towards the heel and one towards the tip. And I'm going to put the knife at about a 45-degree angle, or as much angle as I can manage up to 45 degrees. I have to be a little careful because the flipper tab is wanting to contact the stone there. But the more of this angle you can get relative to the stone, the easier it's going to be to hold your angle because you have more edge in contact. And so you have more stability this way. You have much more stability. So all you really need to be locked in place with is this rotational plane of movement. You just need to keep that really still with your wrist, and then the stability of all that edge on the stone is going to keep you locked in this kind of vertical plane relative to your wrist. So keep your wrist locked, keep it from twisting, and then the knife being at an angle will keep you from rolling forward or backwards. Versus if you were to come straight from the side like this, now you have to keep all of this control. It's much harder because that's the direction you're pushing in. It's easy to sweep like this. When you hold it at an angle, you push forward, you have that stability in this direction, in the direction of movement. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if in the comments if that made any sense at all. Hopefully it did. And now I'm going to move on to the Tanto section. So for this section, I do want to turn the knife this way. And the reason for that is so I can get an alternating scratch pattern. Right now I have the scratch pattern of this main edge going like this. So I want my Tanto scratch pattern to be going in a different direction so that you can see the distinction between the edge. Now, I'm going to approximate the angle. I'm going to take a stroke and we'll see. Okay, you can see, looks like I'm a little bit low on the angle there. So I'm going to raise up just a little bit. Take a few strokes. There, that's better. You can see I'm removing almost all the Sharpie cleanly. Now I'm just going to continue on at that same angle. And what I want to do with the Tanto section, I'm not super worried about what the precise angle is. What I really want to do is match the bevel width with this part. So I want to make sure the bevel width is consistent, and whatever angle that works out to be, that's fine. It might be a degree higher because we have a thin hollow grind here and a very slightly thicker flat grind at the tip. If it's a slightly different angle, that's fine. It's really not a big issue. I want it to look consistent visually. If you care more about having it be precisely the same angle and maybe you want more of that performance of the lower angle at the tip, sure, drop it down and have it be a wider bevel. That's totally fine. It's totally up to you. It really doesn't make that big of a difference either way. This is just personal preference. For me, I don't mind the Tanto section being slightly thicker and very slightly more obtuse. Again, we're talking probably 1 degree, 1.5 degrees. It's going to be 18 versus 19, 19.5, that kind of thing. So a pretty small difference ultimately, but I don't mind a slightly more obtuse and slightly tougher edge at the Tanto portion because theoretically that's the part of the edge that you'll be using harder. Say you want to scrape at things or pry or get the tip in there and dig, that edge being slightly more obtuse will just give you more toughness. It's not going to be a bad thing. Now I'm going to come over to the other side and approximate that angle. And let's see, here's what I'm doing. So you can see I'm slightly low, very slightly low on the angle. I'm going to raise it up just a little bit. see that? I'm almost perfect. There's just a little bit left right here near the transition and just a slight bit of old bevel left right up at the tip that I need to get. And for this Tanto section, I'm doing the same pinch grip. I'm just rotating my wrist out this way and rotating kind of my whole body. I'm standing off to the left side of my stone versus right in front of it now. I've shifted around the stone. Still going 2 fingers up here at the tip. I'm just going to focus the pressure with my fingers on those 2 areas that I had missed. Here we go. Now it's all, I can feel a burr, it's fully apexed along the whole thing. That's perfect. Now I need to flip it back to this side and just even it out a little bit. I removed a little bit more material on this side than over here. And again, I'm going to rotate. I'm standing on the right side of the stone now. I'm using my fingers to put pressure right where I want to remove that steel. Okay, I can feel burr, so I'm apexed on both sides. You can see that edge bevel width is looking pretty consistent. And it's consistent from side to side. Hopefully you can kind of tell, you can see that decently. This is hard to get on camera because these bevels are just so small. You can see the tip is nice and consistent in shape. So that's a good indication that you're getting your angle correct and you're removing the same amount of material from each side if your tip is consistent from side to side. Here's what I was talking about with the scratch pattern. You can see the direction of the scratches on the edge bevel change between the Tanto section and the main section. Hopefully that is apparent. And so you see a distinction between those two. That's what I'm going for. And again, this is an optional step. It's just going to make it look a little bit nicer and a little bit more professional. Okay, I've got these set, and this was my resin bonded diamond stone made by Neve. This was the 240, the F240 side. Now I'm going to move to the F400 side. So again, I start off by conditioning the surface with my Nagura. This is a Bodrid Nagura. It's a 1K. Really good stone. They're nice and thick and hefty, so you can get a good hold of them and cover a lot of surface with them easily. They're pretty inexpensive. They last a long time, and it builds up. It grinds away on pretty much any stone with ease, coarse stones or fine stones. It's aggressive enough, but not too aggressive to do pretty much any stone you want and kind of clean off and refresh the surface. You could use this on your resin bonded diamond. You could use it on CBN. You could use it on any traditional waterstone, whatever you wanted. This is, I think, the stone I'm going to finish on. So right now I'm just refining scratch pattern, and I'll go into my finishing. The steel is very easy to sharpen. The knife is made by Rayot, and in my experience, Rayot tends to do a slightly softer heat treat on a lot of their steels. I wonder if that's what I'm seeing and feeling here, is a slightly softer heat treat on this M390. Or sorry, this one is 20 CV right there. Edge bevel looks good. Gonna take a few more passes. To find my angle after switching sides, I'm putting the knife down on the stone, getting pretty close to what I think the angle is, and then rocking it side to side, and you can feel when that bevel slaps down flat onto the stone. You can feel the angle. It's a really touchy thing, and it takes a lot of practice and getting used to, and it's a very, very subtle feeling. But you can tell when you get it right with practice. That's a technique I learned from Michael Christie, great sharpener on YouTube. Definitely check him out. He's got definitely a lot more years and a lot more skill in the game than I do. he's one of the guys who I learned from when I was learning sharpening. He's one of my favorites. He's always been one of my favorite sharpeners on YouTube to watch, and he has a cool perspective. He's got a slightly different perspective. Definitely a very different sharpening style. You should check him out. I'm keeping all my strokes really uniform here. That is just going to help you keep a consistent angle. It's going to help you keep a consistent scratch pattern. Keeps everything looking and feeling nicer. Okay, this bevel's looking really good. I've got it apexed. Looks like I've got all the scratches removed. Very nice. Just on this side, there's one little spot that needs a little more work. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to go on to the Tanto section. This is just a bottle of water with a little bit of dish soap in it. With my fingers here, I have this one here, kind of towards the transition point against the heel side of the Tanto edge. My middle finger, I have it on the flat, but just over on the spine, so I'm actually using it to pull the knife toward. I've got this side of the Tanto looking good. Now let's go over to the right side. My pressure right now is moderate to light. You don't need a lot of pressure in general. If you want to do a lot of material removal and really remove that material fast, yeah, you can bear down a little bit more. But for most of your sharpening process, you don't need very much pressure. I'm trying to think of a way to quantify about how much pressure you would need. You can see kind of as I press with my pointer finger, you can see I just get a little bit of indentation. That's the kind of pressure you're looking for. A little bit of indentation onto your fingers. Your fingers should not be going white. This is too much pressure. Just a light to firm pressure on here. Say on your arm, just enough to kind of embed into your skin if you were to press on your arm like that. Tip looking really even. That's nice. These bevels are looking really good. I think this side needs a little more work just to even it out. Okay, I'm satisfied with what we have here. Bevels are looking nice and consistent. Now let's go into finishing. Try and make this quick because I need to be leaving, going on a trip today, leaving my girlfriend and I going to Los Angeles for the week. Should be fun. We fly out this afternoon, so I need to hurry it up on this. Now I'm going to use a technique I learned from Hap Stanley of Nanohone. He calls this jointing. You're going to take the edge and very lightly run it over your stone just to remove any burr and remove the very, very apex that theoretically is fatigued from carrying the burr. So you're just going to use your fingers and see if you can feel a burr. I can feel a very slight burr still in a few places. This pressure is super light, less than the weight of the blade, pretty much as light as you can go. Now, the burr's gone. What I'm going to do now, clean off this stone a little bit, just kind of with my fingers. And now I'm going to use really light pressure. Really light pressure, just do these light, consistent strokes, forwards and backwards, just to reform that apex very gently with as little burr as possible. My goal here is to form the smallest burr I can while reestablishing that apex. And at the same time, I want to just perfect the scratch pattern that's on these edge bevels. And that's usually enough. Okay, yeah, we're definitely apexed. I can feel a very slight burr. Very slight has formed, but yeah, its apex feels really sharp, actually. It feels really nice. So that's good. Now, what I'm going to do is my normal deburring. So start here, and I'm going to do edge leading strokes, light pressure, 1 per side. Just like this. And you can go at, try and match exactly the same angle that you've been sharpening at, or you can raise the angle very slightly if you're having trouble removing that burr. I'm talking like a 1/2 degree, about the smallest raising of the angle that you can detect. And that will help you knock the burr off the apex. I usually don't find the need to do that because with practice I've gotten good at keeping the same angle, but if you've been varying your angle a lot, then it's going to be harder to reach the apex on these deburring strokes. Okay. I usually do 5 or so per side, and you want to do as many as you feel you need to adequately remove the burr. So I can't feel it anymore. Now I'm going to do edge trailing strokes, light pressure, exactly the same way to keep that scratch pattern nice and consistent and looking really good. I don't want to vary the direction that I'm doing any of these. Everything is staying the same. And that's how you get a nice looking edge, is with consistent strokes all in the same direction. Dang, that feels really sharp. Okay, I'm gonna do just a couple more. And you want to do these after your edge leading strokes for a few reasons. There are a number of theories on this, and everyone has their own opinion. Here's my opinion. What's really important is finding what works for you. I don't want you to think that there's a set way to sharpen. There are different techniques, and what's really important is finding what works for you and your knives. Take what you learn from other people and technique that you see and find a way to incorporate it into your own style. That's what I've done. That's what I would encourage everyone to do. But the edge leading strokes, what it will tend to do is run your edge into the abrasive and any swarf that's on your stone, which will microscopically degrade your apex. So after you do those edge leading strokes, and you want to do those because they're slightly better at removing the burr than edge trailing. They are better at knocking off the burr. So after your edge leading strokes, you do edge trailing strokes to clean up any of that damage you did to the apex and reestablish a nice, clean, refined apex. That's the way I do it. That's my opinion. I would, again, encourage you to find what works for you. If doing entirely edge trailing works for you and how you sharpen and your knives, that's awesome. Keep doing it. If you're having trouble removing the burr, which if you're only doing edge trailing strokes, you might have trouble removing the burr, then consider adding in some edge leading strokes before that. Now I'm working on the Tanto. Just want to get an apex here. I can feel it. That's good. Now, edge leading strokes. 1 per side, light pressure. All right, that feels good. Apex feels nice and clean. Now, edge trailing strokes. Again, I'm doing everything exactly the same, keeping a nice consistent scratch pattern here. I'm interested to see how the sharpness on this comes up and what the edge feels like, because that will also tell me something about the heat treat. If that sharpness comes up really easily and quickly, it tells me that the burr came off cleanly, which equals a better heat treatment. Bad heat treatments tend to hang on to that burr for a number of reasons that I won't get into here. Okay, feels really sharp. These bevels look good. Let's see if they can cut anything. Here's some catalog paper, and oh yeah, that is no strop, no nothing, just finishing straight on the stone. Feels really good, feels clean. Tanto section feels exactly the same. Okay, you know what? I'm impressed with that. I feel like it deburred really, really easily. And that sharpness has come up quickly. That gives me a good feeling about the heat treatment on this steel. That the sharpness came up this quickly and it deburred this easily. That's very good. Now I'm going to do some very light stropping. And before that, I want to make sure the blade is completely clean and free of any slurry or abrasive from my stone, because I don't want that getting on my strop. That will contaminate your strop with a foreign abrasive, which is almost certainly more coarse than whatever abrasive you have on your strop. So you want to clean your blade with alcohol or something similar. Now for my strop, I'm going at exactly the same angle, exactly the same orientation, and the same kind of stroke. Again, this is just going to accentuate my scratch pattern that I have here. If you start varying it up, it's going to mess with your scratch pattern. To find my angle is really easy on a strop. You just make a motion like you're cutting into it and slowly raise the angle, and when you feel that edge bite in, that's when you know you're at the right angle. Drop it down about a ½ degree, and then take very light strokes. And I'm probably going to do 4 or 5 per side. Just a few, just to clean up any micro burr, because no matter how good you are on the stone, at finishing, there's almost always going to be some micro burr left over on the edge. The size of it and the degree to which it's burred will vary depending on your skill and the steel and a number of factors, but there will almost always be some kind of micro burr left on that edge. So some kind of stropping is very valuable here. Is it necessary? No, but it's going to give you that extra 5, 10, 25% of sharpness that you may be missing directly from your stone. Okay, I'm done stropping. Let's see how that edge came out. That is silly. It's so sharp. The smoothness with which it is cutting through this paper is unbelievable. Yeah, this is a really, really good edge. I'm happy with this sharpening, with this how the steel has felt. I'm very happy with it. Here's what the edge is looking like. Hopefully you can get a good look at that. I'll see if I can take a nice video outside in some more natural light and insert it into here. I'll try and remember to do that. But I think that's everything I have. Actually, one more thing. Let's see how it does with a paper towel. And the answer is pretty damn good. Yep, that is nice. Yep, cutting through that paper towel with ease. I'm happy with that. Kind of difficult to do it on the Tanto section. Alright, that is all I have for this one. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go down and drop a like, and if you have any questions or anything to say, drop a comment. I would love to hear your thoughts. And with all that said, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.